So bear with me here. As you've seen, I've already done some of the work on this script. And for legal disclaimer and reasons, of course, this is a script from an already produced movie, Gross Point Blank, simply because I can't use one of my scripts of what I'm actually working on because they're in production or something that was given to me by friends who are producers. So I can't use those simply for just discretionary reasons, whether NDA or not. But let's dig into it. So I have notes here, so bear with me. To start with, you want to usually, if you're doing this for an acting class, you really want to pick apart the overall scene objective. And that can be either done through reading the entire script of a movie, which sometimes you can find on the internet, or if you have just a single page like I have here, this is one page taken from a 7-page scene, you can watch the movie and pick that apart the first time over. And then you can as well watch the scene itself over and over until you kind of understand the overall objective. And mind you, I went to Ivana Chubbuck's acting classes, was my first acting classes I started with. And now my mother's my acting coach, as well as, yeah, I'm still figuring out if I want a new acting school or how I'm going to do it. But for now, my mother's my acting coach, and that has really helped me. But to start with, let me go to my notes here. You want to figure out what your character wants from life more than anything. And that considers all scenes in the entire script, not just the one part you're working on. And if I was to do this for a movie, I'd want to look at the overall arc of the character throughout the entire script, whether you're in the first 10 minutes and you're just in the first few pages of a script and you're one of your first movies. You still want to look at the overall arching theme that carries throughout the entire movie, whether you're a catalyst for other things that happen throughout the movie and you're just in the first part, or you're someone who appears throughout the entire movie. You still want to look at how you affect the rest of the characters throughout. And that's why you'll see that I have the names highlighted, Dr. Oatman, Martin, just so I can keep track of that. And the stars next to the names mean who I would have been. And when I did this and practiced with this script, I was Martin, so I always put a star next to that. And major themes like the names of these books that this Dr. Oatman had written, like Kill Who, A Warrior's Dilemma, and The Annihilation of Death. And underline main points like I just want to work. And you might want to go in and also underline or box things that you would forget, or maybe put a question mark above them if you still need to think about how you would approach them. Because you have obstacles and emotional and mental health hurdles that make it difficult to make for your character to achieve his overall scene objective. So you first consider a character's page obstacles, and then do your personalizations, and that's usually your next step. And those obstacles could be anything from mental health, like someone who might be bipolar, to loss of family members, or to, you have a drug addiction. Your obstacle can be anything, at least, out loud or from the script itself. Whereas your on-page kind of hurdle will be maybe something you can find that's similar, that's given you the same emotion, that has also been an obstacle for you personally in your own life. And that's usually done on paper. So I would do, kind of say, let's find something that I can relate this to. Give me a second. Like this, ask me how I'm feeling. Sometimes I think in life we have people who don't care about our emotions or ask us how we're feeling and kind of just skate over us and talk about how they feel. And I think it's a very simple relation. It's not very deep, but even just for small things like this that may just be surface level, you could put when people, excuse my handwriting, I have very bad handwriting and spelling. So I do this quick hand. Don't hear me. So that's just, it's not a great example, but it's just something off the top of my head when I'm going through this. And if I was to pick this apart for an actual role, I would read through it once over just without taking notes, and maybe just highlighting the characters' names of who I am, and in another highlighting color, but I only had one highlighter around. I would do, the other characters depending on, like I do a little key. So I would do my name, my character's name highlighted in the color that's the main color. Then I would do any character that I interact with in a major scene in another color, and then I would do the other characters' names in just a bland color, or maybe not at all if they're a supporting role or something that's not as big to the script as you'd think. But if there's an interaction or a catalyst point or something that it affects your character, then I would highlight it, as well as putting a star next to yours, of course. Then the second run through, then I'd start doing the on-page work, picking it apart, seeing how it plays out. Try kind of doing the scene. I'll either do it with my mom or I'll do it with a friend or a family member. Doing this, running the scene, seeing how my choices in scene objective and also overall objective kind of work out, seeing how they play with the script. And then I also will do substitutions kind of on the third run through the script. So I'll read a script 6 times before I'm done or even ready. And usually a substitution will consist of an ex, someone who's in my life who's hurting me, and that's in the case of if I'm dealing with a drug addict girlfriend in a movie, or obsessed ex, or someone who I just lost and they lost their life, whether it's a friend or a relationship or losing a relationship. I would think of something from my past, and that's more in an unhappy sense. Now, if it's in a happy sense, like I just got married or I'm having a kid, I mean, at a young age, it's a little hard, unless you've had a kid, it's harder to relate to. But you can always just think of something that's truly brought you a deep meaning of happiness. And that could be your nephew being born, if you have older brothers or older sisters, um, your parents having another kid and it being your brother or sister, some version of something coming into the world. And you could do that with anything to do with birth, and you could also do that with anything. You just have to find something that brings you happiness that's somewhat relevant to what the script is saying, and that's for substitution. And of course, there's inner objectives as well, and those are images that you see in your mind about a person or place, thing, or event. And there's always a natural movie that passes behind your eyes when we speak. So think of a dream, or think of an inner thought that you have that brings about images of your past or something that's maybe happened to you. And when you're doing a scene, it's the same as doing the inner work or doing the on-page work or substitution or anything like that. You really want to think about what has happened to you and use those images to bring about real feelings. And for instance, for inner objectives, I'll kind of put a little like box on the side here with maybe, and then put a number, like say this is 1, because there's going to be a lot less lines that you use inner objectives with, but you'd put a 1 here, right? And then you do whatever you think you're going to put for what comes up in your head, what plays behind your eyes, as you would say, what kind of thoughts and feelings bring that about. And as well with, substitutions and things like that, you want to play it out a few times with someone that you can do these lines with and see how it provokes feelings and emotions. And before I forget, also for substitutions, usually what I'll do is either if it's a main character, like say Martin's interacting with Dr. Oatman, I'll put kind of like a triangle like this, and then put a dash and put who I'm relating them to in my life. And usually that's a consistent person that you relate them to in your life or substitute them for. Whereas when you see their name in certain parts of the script, if you're trying to evoke a certain emotion like sadness, happiness, so forth, you'll pick a different person that you substitute them for maybe, but someone still similar to who your main person that you substituted up, near the name for. So say, let me look for a second. So see how he's thinking. You did think of it, Martin, right here. So you want to figure out someone who's kind of talked to you but wanted to get away from you, because the whole overall objective of this is Dr. Oatman to help Martin so that he can get him out of his office, get rid of him. If you've seen the movie, Martin has kind of pushed his way into Dr. Oatman's life and really kind of freaked him out, because Martin in this movie is hitman, so he's made Dr. Oatman very scared of him, and he can't, he's not really paying him, so it's not like there's a doctor-client relationship where he can then be fired or quit, and if he does quit, he's worried he'll be killed. So he's trying to help him as quickly as possible so that he can leave this relationship that they've created. um, so you're going to want to think of something maybe for that. And there will be another video like this that will go through more of these bullet points, but we'll do the last one, which is beat and actions. A beat is a thought. Every time there's a change in thought, there's a beat change. Actions are mini objectives attached to each beat that supports a scene objective, and therefore the overall objective is an action, is a phase as trying to get the other person to do or feel something so that you can accurately respond. So honestly, that's always a complex one, but a beat, and I would compare this to you switching trains of thought when in a conversation, and you kind of just want to kind of make a note like I would do. You did think of it, Martin, blah blah blah, and then and then I'm left with the aftermath of thinking I got to be creative in a really interesting way, or Martin's now going to blow my brains out. So I mean, I would say here is a bit of a beat because you did think of it, Martin. That's a confrontational setting, but then this is kind of an explanation. You thought of it and then you said it. And then now I'm left with the aftermath of thinking I have to be creative or really interesting, or really interesting way now, or Martin's going to blow my brains. And these are all, maybe I would break it up into 3 different parts. So, here, so forth, kind of the rest of this line, and then over here. So, and then you have this after here, which is kind of more like you're exiting the confrontation because you're saying how you feel. And yeah, and that's beats and actions, and I'll go more into that next time, as well as the other 6 that I use. And these are all taken from the book that I read for my first acting class, which was the Chubbuck 12 Steps.